Dear Ajahn, it is often recommended that adults get 6 to 8 hours of sleep daily. Is there a recommended amount of sleep for monastics?
The recommended amount depends on how good your practice is going. Yeah, that's really what matters. So it is not a amount as such that we should follow. What you should follow is what feels good. Yeah, it says here in this particular sutta, it says that you have clear awareness about sleeping. The translation here is when sleeping. I think that's a faulty translation. It should be about sleeping. It means that you know the right amount of sleeping. Yeah, and the right amount of sleeping is when you feel fresh, you feel mindful, you feel aware, your mental state is at its best, so that you can meditate easily. You can practice the Dhamma in an easy way. And so it is the same for lay people as it is for monastics. You should sleep the amount that makes you feel good. Yeah, if you sleep too much, you get tired. If you sleep too little, you get tired. Find that middle way. And if you are, many people these days, they suffer from not being able to sleep very well. Yeah. So if you're one of those people who can sleep well, then use that to your advantage and make sure you get the right amount of sleep. Yeah. I sometimes sleep very different number of hours depending on what I'm doing. And if I'm quite tired, sometimes I sleep maybe 7 hours, yeah, at night. 6 hours maybe usually, but six or 7 hours, really depending on the situation. Sometimes less when you meditate a lot. So it just varies enormously. In the suttas, it is recommended, the Buddha says that 4 hours is a good time. But 4 hours is only when you reach a high stage on the path. Yeah, when you go to the path, when your meditation is going very well, you have very good samadhi and these kind of things. That is when 4 hours is the right amount. But only when it is going well. If you are tired, if you're working hard, if you're giving a lot of talks and these kind of things, then you need more sleep. Yeah, so you need to find that balance. What matters is that you are fresh, you are clear, you are mindful, and you can live the life well. That is what is important.
Thank you, Ajahn. Dear Ajahn, can the practice taught in Mindfulness of the Body Sutta be simplified to the notion of being here and now with awareness?
I think only one of the exercises can be simplified to that, and that is the previous one we just saw about the 4 postures. That one can be simplified to be here and now. The other ones that we're going to see, the one we're seeing now, for example, is a bit different. There's a bit more. Actually, this one too is similar to that one, but the other ones are quite different. So it can be simplified to that, be here and now with awareness, but not just awareness, but also awareness of suitability. Yeah. In other words, am I thinking the right thing? What if you're getting angry? You go on alms round into the city and someone treats you in a bad way. Maybe they shout, sometimes in Australia, people are not Buddhists, so they shout after you or something like that. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it may happen. So do you get upset? Or do you have compassion for the person? Yeah. So this ability to be aware and then adjust your conduct is also part of the awareness, the purpose of this. So it can be simplified to just being aware of what is going on, but also the extended idea is to actually overcome the problems and the defilements of the mind.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, I would like to ask whether my understanding is correct. Is it right if I say that the second practice and the third practice should be practiced at the same time, in the same time? So if we are sitting and hearing Dhamma Desana, we have to be aware of both activities back and forth.
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say if you're listening to Dhamma Desana, only listen to the Dhamma Desana. The idea is to be fully present with whatever is happening. If your attention goes back and forth, you're not fully present. Just listen to the Dhamma. Don't worry about the sitting. I mean, you will feel the sitting as well, yeah, unless you are really, really absorbed in the Dhamma talk. Maybe you don't feel the sitting, But if you're not so absorbed, you will feel the sitting sometimes. Sometimes you will see things, as you are listening. Sometimes you will think about things. So the mind will move by itself. It's very hard to be fully concentrated all the time. But if you can, just follow the Dhamma talk. Don't follow the other aspect. Just do one thing at a time. I think that is the main message here. Focus on the one thing that you're doing. Give that 100% of attention.
Yeah, Ajahn. You mentioned some past lives experience. I understand this includes one having the ability to see one's previous lives and the lives of others passing away and taking rebirth. Wonder this ability needs all the 4 jhanas attainment, or a pre-jhanic peaceful mind is sufficient to see the past lives experience.
If you want to develop these things in a structured way, in a way that is authentic, in a way that is really believable, in a way that you can be certain of the results, then ideally you need all the 4 jhanas. All the 4 jhanas, or the 4th jhana, is said to be the basis for all the kind of supernormal powers, which then includes the recollection of past lives and also seeing other beings passed away. So that is if you want to really be sure, that is the right way to go. But there can be glimpses of these things, even without jhana experience. Sometimes people have visions, they have things that they see in the meditation, which may or may not be past life experiences. It really depends. It is very hard to know. One of the things to be aware of is that the mind is a very powerful force, and the mind will create almost anything that it wants to create, depending on the situation that you are in. So a lot of the things that people call past lives are just creations of the mind. They're not really real events in the past. And you can see that. It's very known, for example, through people using past life regression and these kind of things. And a lot of the past life regressions are obviously not real recollections of the past life, because often they are just nonsense. They have no relation to who you actually are as a being. And very famously they said that if all 100 people all think they were Cleopatra in the past life, then obviously something is wrong. Only one person can be Cleopatra in the past life, so you have a problem. And sometimes you get these kind of things, these kind of strange things happening, and it's not really all that reliable. So you have to be. So it can be possible to access past life even through past life regression, but it is very, very uncertain method. The more still your mind is, the more likely it is to be correct, but even then it is uncertain. If you want to be absolutely certain, the 4th jhana is the way to go.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, where is conceit hiding within the 5 khandhas?
Conceit is like a conceit is many things coming together, but one of the most important aspects of conceit is that it is part of sanya, part of perception. Because conceit is how you regard yourself. You regard yourself as being better than you actually are. This is kind of what conceit means. It means that you think very highly of yourself. I am great. When actually maybe you're just ordinary. In fact, we're all ordinary. No one really deserves to be considered greater than anyone else. Just because you are a sports star or because you are good at a particular thing doesn't make you better as a person. Maybe the noble ones, maybe the Aryas can be called better people, but not everyone else. We're all more or less the same. So conceit is always a mistake, but it's basically a perception. And it is a perception that also gives rise to a feeling. When you are conceited about yourself, you will tend to feel good about yourself. There are certain feelings that come with that. So it's perception, it is feelings. And from those perception and feelings, you could say that some of it will affect your choices in a certain way. If you are conceited, you will choose in a certain way. Or you can also say that certain choices, how you live your life will also give rise to conceit. Yeah, if you choose in a certain way, if you choose, for example, that how would this work? I can't think of any good example, but I'm sure there is choices that you make that then give rise to conceit as a consequence. So these, I think, are maybe the three areas where conceit arises the most.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, does situational awareness the same thing as the four sampajanas? Santaka, Sapaya, Gochara, Asamoha, Sampajana.
Yeah.
Do we continue the sati, or we stop after examining does our action for a better cause?
Sorry, can you say the last thing again?
Do we continue the sati, or we stop after examining does our action for a better cause?
Well, first of all, yes, these four, the Gochara, the Asamoha, and the suitability and purpose, which are the English translations of the first two, these are the four ways that Sampajanya or Sati Sampajanya is defined in the commentaries. That's all from the commentaries, not actually found in the suttas. But it is a nice way of thinking about it, yeah, because that kind of brings out the deeper meaning of these things. We understand purpose and suitability. Now, Gochara is a dangerous one, because Gochara, the way that is explained in the commentaries, it is explained precisely as always having your meditation object in mind. Yeah, and this is where I said before that I think the commentaries go too far, because there is no evidence for that in the suttas, that you should always have your meditation object in mind. So I don't really, that Gochara thing, I don't really buy that. And I think that I haven't studied the commentaries in detail, and maybe there are alternative ways of looking at this. But if that is correct, then I don't really accept the idea that you should always have your meditation object in mind, because I don't think it works. And I think the suttas actually talk about it differently. Asamoha is a very profound aspect of Sampajanya, because asamoha means non-delusion. And the way that is explained is that you don't see any self in all of these activities. You see them as selfless. But that is very difficult to do. Yeah, and seeing all of these things as selfless really only happens fully further down the path. It only happens fully when you become a stream enter. So the most important thing initially on this path is to ensure purity. And if you develop that purity, if that is what you focus on, then the meditation will come together. Then you will be able to understand non-self. It is important to get the sequence right. If you try too much to understand non-self straight away by using the asamoha factor, then I think you are going to not succeed, yeah? Because you have to follow the kind of standard way that this is explained in the gradual training in the suttas. So get the sequence right is very important here. So the four factors, of those four factors, the first two are the ones that I will want to emphasize, because they are the ones that have a very practical application in daily life, especially. Can you repeat the last part again, Bobby? Sorry about that.
Yeah, the wording is a bit funny. Do we continue the sati, or do we stop after examining does our action for a better cause? For a better cause,
okay. Sati is always useful, yeah, because sati helps you to avoid the pitfalls, to avoid all the wrong ways on the path. So sati is always good to continue. So always continue having sati. But you should know that sati has a different purpose depending on where in the practice you are. So when you are before satipatthana, the purpose of sati is to keep you pure, to give up the defilements, to make sure you don't give rise to any bad states, that you go to the village for the right purpose, and it is suitable to do so. Sati, once you meditate, should be for the purpose of focusing on the breath. Yeah, sati is used to focus on the breath. Now the emphasis on defilements is much less, because at this point the defilements have already been put behind to a large extent. They're not really there anymore. And the deeper your meditation is, the more the purpose of mindfulness is simply to be aware of the object. And if you are simply aware of the object, the meditation will develop by itself. You don't have to do anything else. Then when you come out of your meditation after a state of samadhi, you should still have sati, but then sati is really used for insight, for yata bhuta nanadasana, seeing things in accordance with reality. Yeah. So it's always about, why do we have sati? What is its purpose? How do we use it at all the different parts of the path? This is really the critical thing here. And it will have different function depending on what exactly you are doing on the path. And this function is very important to understand, because if you apply the wrong function at the wrong time, you will not make any progress, and then you have a problem.
Thank you, Ajahn. In a middle-length discourse, I believe, the awakened one is depicted as criticizing Sariputta a little for inaction when a group of monks became overly rowdy. So I wondered if you might briefly comment whether a contemplative perspective, depending upon one's range of duties, actually leads to taking action externally in certain circumstances.
Yes, I think it does. Sometimes it is correct to take action externally, but it still should be done in a spiritual context. Yeah. So in this way here, Sariputta, remember, he was already an arahant in a sense. So for Sariputta, there wasn't really, the idea was no longer to make progress. So he didn't really have to think about progress so much. His job now was to be a teacher. His job was to look after the monks. The sutta you are talking about is called the Chattuma Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, number 56 or something. No, not 56, 57, 58, anyway, something like that. And so you have to, so in that case, his job was to be a teacher. And because his job is to be a teacher, he has to fulfill the role of being a teacher. Yeah, it doesn't mean that he is not practicing spirituality. He's still pure. He's pure because he's an arahant. In the same way, we all have our roles in life. Yeah, you have your role as a family member, maybe. You have your role in a job that you have to fulfill. So you have to do those roles. You have to act externally. But you never forget the spiritual qualities that you put into that. Yeah, as a family member, there's many ways of being a family member. We can be a family member. We can be, really a really tough love kind of parent. Yeah, really, really being, telling our kids, this is the way, don't mess around. Or we can be more of a soft kind of parent. A parent who is more kind of gentle with the children. Yeah, a parent who is not so concerned about the academic result, but more concerned about the personal qualities of the child. There's different ways of bringing up a child. And I would say the Buddhist way of bringing up the child is to do it with spiritual qualities, with kindness, encouraging them to be a good person, not being so concerned about worldly results. Yeah, I mean, if they have a career, okay, fine. If they don't have a career, also fine. Yeah, that's kind of how you think about things in the right way. So yes, we do our jobs, we do the things that we have to do in this life, but we always add spiritual qualities to everything we do. That is really the significant issue here.
Thank you, Ajahn. Someone wants to confirm whether the sutta Ajahn mentioned earlier was Anguttara Nikaya 6.29.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, question. As a beginner, I'm not sure if I'm progressing in meditation. I'm doing walking meditation, reciting a mantra as I walk around. How do I tell?
The way you tell is that the two factors I mentioned at the beginning. There's two things that meditation should do for you. It should make you more peaceful, and it should make you more happy. Yeah, you should. By happy, I mean very broad. In a very broad way. I mean, more relaxed, for example. If you're more relaxed, it means you're more happy. If you're more at ease, you're more happy. If you have less suffering, whatever it might be, you are more happy. If you have joy, you are more happy. If you're more peaceful, you are more happy. Yes, I mean happy in a very broad sense. You feel better about yourself in one way or another. That's what I mean by happy. So you should feel more happy in this sense, and you should feel more peaceful. These are the two things that you should look for in your meditation practice. If it does that, then your meditation is working well. And you should see that in one meditation session, when you start off your meditation and you end it, in that session, you should see this happening. So when you come out of your meditation, you should feel more peaceful and more content and satisfied when you come out than when you started. You should also see this happening over time. So if you look at your meditation, say 6 months ago, and you compare now, you can see that you are a little bit more peaceful in meditation now than what you were 6 months ago. Two kinds of progress: progress within the meditation and progress over time. These are the things that you should use. If you're not making enough progress, what you should do is you come back to the basics of the Noble Eightfold Path. Come back to kindness. Kindness is by far the most underrated value in Buddhism. And it is so important for the path to really work. Be as absolutely kind as you possibly can in every situation. Kindness in actions, kindness in speech, kindness in the way you think, in the way you look at other people. If you can make that a powerful thing in your life, you're going to have a lot of success in meditation later on.
Thank you, Ajahn. Dear Ajahn, should happy couples contemplate the 32 parts of the body, 31 parts of the body?
31 or 32?
He mentioned both 31 and 32.
Okay. Okay, good. That's very funny. So, okay. Should they? I wouldn't recommend it, because if you are a couple and you're living an ordinary, life of couples, then the attraction and the relationship you have with each other is going to go exactly in the opposite way of the 31 parts of the body. Yeah, you're going to see your partner as attractive. And so because they go in opposite ways, there's going to be a clash, between two different values. And when there is a clash, which one is going to win out? Well, the one that's going to win out is seeing the attractiveness of the body. That's what's going to win out, because it's more pleasant. It is more easy. So I think it is not an advisable way of meditating when you live an ordinary life as a couple, because basically the purpose of that kind of life is the opposite of this kind of meditation practice. So in that case, I would say it is better to use something like just mindfulness of breathing. Yeah, mindfulness of breathing is much more neutral. You can use that as a meditation object. You can, of course, live a life of kindness. Of course, that's fully compatible, obviously, with living in a relationship. That's okay. You can do all these other things on the path, but I wouldn't recommend this one. You can maybe do the 4-element meditation, because the 4-element meditation is more neutral. It just sees the body more as a kind of impersonal kind of thing. We'll come back to that tomorrow. You can do that. But you're very wise to ask this question, because sometimes people use the wrong means for the wrong situation, and then it just makes life miserable and makes life difficult.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, how does one do imagination meditation if one doesn't have images of vision, doesn't see any images except some lights? Is feeling imagination too?
Well, you don't have to see anything in your mind's eye. You can just, if I sit here now, I can sort of imagine that there is a skull in here. Yeah, I know that there are lungs there. I know roughly what they look like. If you have no picture, if you have no idea what they look like, use a book. Yeah, use a book which has all the body parts, maybe pictures of the body parts or drawing of the body parts in it, and then see, well, that's me. Yeah, these body parts, this is actually in here, and then you can see it with your eyes. That's one way of doing that meditation. Yeah, just using some kind of, go on the internet. If you go on the internet, I'm sure there's heaps of body parts all over the internet. If you Google on these things, yeah, you will be able to see everything you want to see as a consequence. So that is one way of using imagination. And then you remind yourself what you see on the internet actually is the same thing that you have inside of you. And then you have some idea what's happening here.
Thank you, Ajahn. In ancient yoga tradition, they believe we have to purify the body before purifying the mind. So they practice yoga stretching, do pranayama, breathing, or various cleansing practices to purify the body. Also vegetarian and avoid eating like onions, mushrooms, or tamasic food. Tamasic foods are those which dull the mind and bring out inertia, confusion, and disorientation. To them, eating all this food will affect their meditation practice. So also Mahayanas who do not eat garlic, onion, chives, shallots, or leeks. Just curious if any sutta stated this, as we seem to eat everything. Thank you, Ajahn.
No, this is not found in the sutras at all. There is no need to purify the body. These things are kind of irrelevant in Buddhism. You can eat whatever you like, basically. But what I would recommend, there's still right eating, but the right eating is what feels good, yeah, what feels right, that gives you strength, that gives you a healthy body, that makes you feel able to meditate, that makes you able to live a life of kindness and goodness. That is the right kind of food. So food matters, but not in the kind of these foods are bad, these foods are good, but what works for you, yeah, the right amount is much more important than what you eat, for example. So again, just go with the feeling, yeah, ask yourself what works, and if you find that certain things give rise to defilements or certain things give rise to problems, then avoid those things. But ask yourself from a first-person perspective how you feel about it. That is what is really important, not what everyone else feels about it, but how do you feel about these things?
Thank you, Ajahn. Dear Ajahn, is there anything wrong because I always burp during meditation?
That's fine. You can burp during meditation. It's okay. Yeah. And probably you are relaxing, right? Because you are relaxing, and then kind of the things kind of start moving naturally. Yeah. So it's just what happens. So don't worry about that. As long as you don't scare the other people in the room or whatever, I think you'll be fine. That's okay. Go ahead, burp as much as you like. I'll give you permission to burp.
Thank you, Ajahn. Dear Ajahn, in our journey where we cannot yet detach from all desires, can we start by desiring wholesome actions and outcomes, then slowly detach from being the doer and any desires outcomes? I find myself oscillating between desiring and feeling guilt, and then I give up and don't want to plan or decide. But this doesn't seem correct.
Yeah, so yes, desires is it's a very gradual thing. You cannot give up desires just like that. That's impossible. Desires have to be given up over time with understanding what is the biggest problems in your life. And there are certain desires that will be bad, and they will be bad primarily because they break your precepts. Yeah, if you have certain desires, you will break your precepts. I don't like that mosquito, so I will kill the mosquito. Well, that is where you have a problem. So first of all, restrain your desires within the 5 precepts. Then restrain your desires within an even broader set of ethical conduct. Yeah, learn to live with kindness. If you want to live with kindness all the time, you have to stop certain desires because certain desires go against kindness. Yeah. Then, when you become a very kind person, the next thing to restrain is general desires in the world, where you desire things and you find yourself being more interested in the world than in the spiritual path. So you loosen your desires for career, for having a big house, for having a big bank account. If you have them, no problem, but you don't need to desire those things. You don't need to chase those things, right? Because you start to understand that actually happiness is found somewhere else. So make make it stage-wise. Start off with the desires that are really problematic, the ones that stop you from being able to live according to the precepts. Then the ones that stop you from being kind in general, yeah? And then as you do that, then the last desires are the desires that are too involved with the world, so it blocks you from being able to meditate. The more involved you are in the world, the more interest you have in the worldly things, the mind always going out, it stops your ability in meditation practice. Why? Because when the mind going out is the opposite of the mind remaining inside and being still within.
Thank you, Ajahn. How does one practice the 31 parts of the body?
Just imagination, yeah. This is so you just imagine that they are here. You know they are inside of me. So you imagine. You kind of think, okay. You can even have a picture in your mind. You can see yourself and you see the parts in the body. You think, here they are, yeah. All of these things, and you know the nature of your body. You know that underneath the skin, these things are there. This is really all it is. Understanding the nature of the body, that is what it is about. Understanding that there's more than this. And as you contemplate this, as you reflect on the nature of the body, your attitude to the body changes. Instead of being so proud of your body, instead of feeling, very attractive maybe because your external looks are nice or whatever, you start to realize, actually, there is no reason for feeling proud about this body. This body is pretty, there's nothing there really. It's just all of this stuff. I should feel more neutral about this body. And down the track, as you do this, maybe even you want to get rid of the body, because this is what happens in meditation. When meditation becomes very deep, you actually give up the body altogether. So just start with imagination. Try to understand the nature of this body. That is what it really is about.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajahn.